Hey everybody, Antony here, fresh from watching Winter's Tale, which was shown at the Cinestar movie theaters at Potsdamer Platz. The film was directed by Akiva Goldsman. It was based on the novel by Mark Helprin, and it stars Colin Farrell, Jennifer Connelly, Jessica Brown Findlay, Russell Crowe, Will Smith, and Eva Marie Saint. The movie tells the story of an orphan thief by the name of Peter Lake, who is on the run by demon gang leader Hurley Smalls. One day, Peter encounters a mysterious white horse, and once the horse offers to ride on him, it's a magical horse. It can basically fly and appear through walls and do a lot of other fantastic tricks, even run at a very fast speed. And then he falls in love with a young woman who is diagnosed with tuberculosis by the name of Beverly Penn. After his first lovemaking session with Beverly Penn, she passes away. Peter tries to revive her by going into the gazebo where, well, miracles will happen if ever he starts kissing her, but unfortunately, she is long gone. And Peter spends the rest of the movie as a wanderer, never aging, and still keeping up his youthful appearance. Will he be reunited with Beverly? Or will he end up being killed by the demonic gang leader? I have to say, story-wise, it may not be anything new, it may not be the most original, but it promises a lot of beauty and emotion, and I certainly got it through this film. The story between Peter and Beverly is one of the most heartfelt and even one of the most heart-wrenching love stories I've ever seen. His bond with the horse was also very touching, and also Peter's bond with Virginia and Abby was also equally as touching. In fact, this is a very character-driven story. His life is completely on the line, and you kind of feel very sympathetic for him. And speaking of which, the cinematography is absolutely gorgeous. Everything was shot beautifully. The landscapes of New York City, every tower, every building, every street, everything was well shot with such great attention to detail. Especially the effects on the horse was absolutely breathtaking. It made me feel like I was really flying with Peter, and it's really that breathtaking. So it goes to show that the cinematography is just as gorgeous as the story, and frankly, it is one of the best visually themed movies I've ever seen. And speaking of themes, this movie talks about life and death. How one's life may not be enough for them to live, and how life itself can be very fragile no matter how young or old you are. It really does affect me as a person, not to mention story-wise as well, the movie has a lot of guessing games. Like you don't know what's gonna come next, what's gonna happen next. And it might be some nitpicks, but there were some things that kind of bothered me. How did Peter know that Beverly was under attack by Pearlie and his men? Does the horse have any danger vision, or does he smell danger as well? But even then, despite the nitpicks, The story and cinematography, I felt, were absolutely beautiful. Of course, like I said, the story may not be the most original. It may not be totally groundbreaking, but it's so honest and so emotional that, frankly, there were times I was almost about to cry, especially when, well, Beverly died, and especially the ending, which I will not spoil, but let's just say it's one of the most tear jerking and one of the most powerful that I've ever seen. And the characters are all likable. Peter does start off as a thief who is so great at his job, and, well, he pickpockets, and, well, he may not seem like a great person to be around with, but once he meets Beverly, he's absolutely, well, enamored with her. And you could see that because of his situation as an orphan, you really do feel sorry for him. I mean, let's face it, he was basically sailed away on a little boat ever since he was a little baby. Well, mostly because his parents were denied of having a residence permit to live in the United States, or even, worst of all, denied citizenship. I definitely felt for Peter. I mean, it's no wonder why he chose his life to be a thief. And more than anything, he states in the film that he always wants to be a mechanic, and we really do see his mechanic chops, well, in work. And that's just really that fascinating. And it really shows that Peter is really such an interesting and very endearing character. And I've always rooted for him. I've always wanted to see him have his happy ending. I've felt sorry for him when Beverly died and when his parents abandoned him. I felt even sorry for him when there were moments where he doesn't remember anymore. And I really felt for him when he was crying over that picture of Beverly and him. You could really feel this person of what he's going through. And honestly, he is that endearing, and his relationship with Beverly and Willa are very endearing. They are so endearing. And even his relationship with the horse and Virginia and Abby, very, very endearing. I mean, it shows that they're not just a bunch of talking heads, but they're souls that really want to get to know each other, connect with each other, and really feel for each other. You really feel for him, especially Beverly. Initially, she is a young girl who is a very talented pianist, but is also suffering from tuberculosis. That's why she wants to make herself extremely cold as possible. When she meets Peter, she does start off as a bit snide, but she warms up to him eventually. And after their first meeting of friendship, she ends up falling in love with him. And I felt very sad when she passed away. It was just so heartbreaking because this is a young woman that, let's face it, she's not a bimbo, she's not a damsel in distress, and she's not too much of a shrinking violet. She is a wonderful, genuine young woman who is very talented, but also very fragile. And, well, in terms of her health, because, well, she has tuberculosis, and every time I hear her say that, well, some of the doctors in Baltimore say that I'll be passing away in 6 months, I was like, wow, how can you still be so optimistic when you know that you're on the face of death? And frankly, I definitely felt for her. It was so heart wrenching when she died. And I know that without Beverly, Peter would be absolutely nothing. And speaking of Beverly, we have her little sister, Willa. Willa is such an endearing character. When she was a child, she has this wonderful little relationship with Peter. You could really see the big brother little sister bond that these two share, and I could really see their chemistry work. It's that of a aloof big brother, curious little sister type. Not to mention Willa's relationship with Beverly. I felt it is so heart-rendering to see such a curious little girl like Willa bond with her delicate yet talented yet even lovely Beverly, or her older sister Beverly. I felt that their bond was very heartfelt and very endearing, and equally as endearing is her bond with Peter, especially as she grows old. Um, we do see that she has grown wiser throughout the years, and she knows that yes, life is fragile, life does have its ups and downs, but as long as we strive, we know that we're still alive. And Willa definitely is another person that has a lot of charm and has developed really well. Um, Hurley Smalls I felt was a bit one note because, well, he's one of those villains that has this gruff, rough sounding voice and that really talks like this and all that stuff. And he just simply looks threatening all throughout. But what I can get from him is he is very determined to make Peter's life a living hell. He is that determined to kill him. I mean, sure, I've seen villains like that in a lot of other movies, but my goodness, Pearly simply scares me. And the way he was able to transform into his demon form, I definitely felt was a huge plus on the cinematography side. It was really that intimidating, especially when he snaps. I mean, the presence that he has in the film just makes you really, really uncomfortable, but I mean it in the most exciting way possible. Every time I watched Pearly, I was immediately glued to my seat. I just couldn't leave my chair because, well, Pearly was that intimidating of a villain. He is that scary. And sure, he may be one note, but that can be forgiven because he is determined, he is driven, and most of all, he's scary. And if I were to make a top 10 scariest character list, I'd say he would be on that spot. He would definitely be on that spot. I mean, his presence alone will make you squirm very uncomfortably and just make you wonder what's his next move and who's the next victim on his list. He's really that intimidating, though a little bit one note. The judge, equally as intimidating. I mean, you do feel his presence and voice, and okay, yes, the judge is, well, Lucifer, but still, his presence is absolutely just as skin crawling as Pearlie's. But he also does show some concern for Pearlie as Pearlie tries his best to stop Peter the second time. He does have some concern, so it does show that even though he's the Grand Minister of Hell, he does have a soft side for one of his agents, especially if that agent is in the highest rank. Virginia is a very caring mother, and she does get along with Peter really well. And Abby is another child character that's not annoying and is equally as curious and very endearing, Another character that I also like has to be Beverly's and Willa's father. At first, he seems very skeptical about Peter because, well, after Peter admits that he was a common thief, well, at first, their father basically wanted him out. But after Peter fixes the pipes that was almost about to explode, well, Mr. Penn gives him a big hug and simply welcomes him to have Beverly as his own. So overall, the characters are very endearing and they are that exciting to see on screen. And speaking of characters, they wouldn't exist in this movie if it weren't for some great actors. And I do see a lot of great acting in this film today. Colin Farrell was able to portray all of Peter's uncertainties, doubts, fears, and dreams and wishes, and he was able to portray his sad moments really, really well. I definitely felt his performance all throughout. Jessica Brown Findlay was able to portray all of Beverly's sophisticated yet very delicate nature to such a T. Plus, she looked really, really gorgeous. And she was absolutely very endearing. And I definitely really liked her presence on screen. The child actress who played the young Willa, I almost forgot her name. It starts with Michaela. Hang on. Hang on. Hang on. I will search for that name. Yeah, her first name is Michaela. Michaela Twiggs. I thought she was absolutely, really, really spot on with all of Willa's curious nature. And she was definitely a very endearing person to see on screen. And Eva Marie Saint was able to portray older Willa's wisdom, and basically she was able to make older Willa such a very endearing character as well. And my goodness, Russell Crowe as Pearlie is one of the most skin-crawling performances I've ever seen. And to quote Yezu Otaku, well, on how she mentioned King Hamdo performed by Jack Taylor, I'll simply quote it here. His performance as Pearlie is one of the most skin-crawlingly grody performances I've ever seen. I mean, just simply watching him on screen will make you easily just aim for the next shower room. And that is just how intimidating Russell Crowe was as Pearlie. I almost did not recognize him, well, because I mostly know him for his role in The Gladiator, but watching him as Pearlie was just wow. It was simply just wow. I definitely felt uncomfortable in a very exciting way, and I definitely felt his presence on screen. And it is definitely an experience that is so unforgettable when it comes to an actor as prolific like Russell Crowe. Will Smith was equally as intimidating as Lucifer. When I heard his mini monologue in which he kept saying now, 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 I was immediately terrified, especially the way he was able to alter his voice into making it sound so gravelly and deep and threatening and imposing. I felt was just, oh my god, just shocking. Even when I did a little bit of research, I was almost quite surprised that Will Smith had a role in this movie, but after seeing him in the role of the judge, I was just taken aback at just how versatile Will Smith is. He had his beginnings in Prince of Bel-Air and a lot of other action movies, and here he is playing one of the most intimidating characters I've ever seen, even though it's such a small part. But he was able to make it with such ferocity that I was immediately taken aback. So basically, there was a lot of solid acting all around. Special kudos to Jennifer Connelly, who was able to give such a heartfelt portrayal of Virginia, even though she didn't have that much time on screen. Michaela Twiggs for such an endearing performance as young Willa. Eva Marie Saint for her portrayal as older Willa. Russell Crowe as Pearlie. Will Smith as the judge. Jessica Brown Findlay as Beverly, and of course, Colin Farrell as Peter. I definitely felt that the acting was very solid. And even its writing was extremely solid as well. That just simply goes back to the story, which I definitely felt was very solid. The writing was very, very solid, and the music, absolutely gorgeous. The film mostly relies on a lot of orchestral music. You have your piano music, your hushed piano music, and you have your strings in a lot of the scenes, especially in the quiet scenes. And then when you have the more intense scenes, you have the orchestra almost going all out. And then you have the song that is heard in the ending credits. I definitely felt that the movie's soundtrack, if ever they'll release it, is totally worth a listen. And I definitely felt that everything about this movie was just great. Overall, I definitely enjoyed watching Winter's Tale. It was definitely one of the most heartfelt, one of the most heart wrenching, and definitely one of the most beautiful films I've ever seen. And personally, I would really rate this film a 4.5 out of 5. Okay. Um, Even though the villain might seem one note, he's definitely intimidating. That's why I ended up giving it 4 out of 5, 4.5 out of 5. It's still a really great film, and I really recommend that you watch it while it's still in theaters. But even as I did some research, I basically found out that there were some negative reviews of the film. And what shocked me is that some people who reviewed this movie said that the book was much better than the movie. Some people said it was too schmaltzy. There were certain elements that were taken away from the book. But frankly, I've never read the book before. I'm sure it's just as better as the movie. But as the movie stands on its own, I definitely felt that it was that excellent and it told a really honest and beautiful story. So I highly recommend that you check it out while it's still in theaters. And if the DVD ever comes out, well, go check it out. And if it comes out on Netflix, well, go check it out as well. Well, that's all for now. Be sure to tune into my next review, which is going to be American Hustle. And until then, this is Antoni wishing you all a nice day.